so I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How we doing? FT Live on a Monday. We're always all over the damn place. Kip, Pierzynski, you're back at home, AJ. It's been a minute, huh?
It's been last night was the first night I spent in my own bed since 3 weeks ago.
Wow. Did you hold it tight and say I missed you?
No, my poor dogs though looked at me like they didn't know who I was, which was always fun.
Lovely. Well, I'm at Iona College. Thanks to them for hosting me. I'll be speaking to the Bruce Beck Sports Broadcasting campers after this, and one of them might sneak into the room at some point. Also, Kip, I don't know if you saw it, but we're at 10,000 subscribers on Foul Territory's YouTube channel. So it's kind of a big deal because we've only been in existence for a few months.
Bravo. Well done.
Thank you.
Credit to you guys, you two especially.
Credit to the social media team and the production staff behind the scenes, the whole deal, and for setting up awesome guests. So today we'll talk to Russ Dorsey from Stadium for our usual hangout with him. And then in hour number 2, Bobby Witt Jr. and Trey Mancini joining us on a Monday. Let's go. Let's charge the damn mound right now. It is trade deadline season. This will be a topic of discussion every single day leading up to August 1st. So I want to call this spreading rumors because most of what gets sent out into the social media world is actually just speculation. So let's spread rumors. Let's start with Bruce Levine. He said the Toronto Blue Jays are showing strong interest in trading for Chicago Cubs starting pitcher Marcus Stroman. And this coming from Daniel Greenberg. So a lot of the Chicago people that, AJ, you probably know better. Or I guess both of you have a lot of Chicago ties. You buying this one at all?
Well, it came from Bruce Levine. It's probably not true. I'm just kidding. I love you, Bruce, if you're listening. He's mad at me because he asked me to come on his podcast, and I didn't. So he came up to me and said, "Are you mad at me?" And I was like, "No, I'm not."
Dude, go on his pod. What are you doing?
Dude, I haven't had time, bro. I just told you I hadn't been home for 3 weeks. What the heck? Listen, the Blue Jays already had Marcus Stroman. Why didn't they just keep him if they want to trade back for him? I don't know. I mean, listen, Stroman's probably the top starting pitcher on the market, I guess, over, I don't know who even is close, but he'd be the top guy. So every team that needs a starter, Baltimore, Toronto, you name the teams, they're all going to try and be in on Stroman for a rental and see who can get him. That's why guys like, you look at like a Giolito or someone like that can possibly be dealt, but no one's sure yet. They're going to get more than I think teams think because there's not a lot of people out there that are saying this guy can make a difference. But Stroman is probably the one guy that can make a difference.
Kip, your thoughts?
I think there's a lot of familiarity there. I think that's why they're connected. I think he obviously didn't burn any bridges leaving there. I think he holds Toronto high on his list of places he'd go if he wants to go to a contender. So they'd love to have him back. They know they can count on him. He'd fit right back in. I'm sure he knows a lot of the guys who are still there already. So yeah, I think that's a good fit both ways.
I thought he left, didn't he? I thought he left on bad terms, no?
Did he? I thought it was just free agent heading elsewhere.
No, he was traded to the Mets.
But does that mean bad terms?
No,
That's
I'm just saying,
terms.
But I thought, I don't know how, I thought I could be way wrong.
Free agent was to Cubs, excuse me.
Yeah, he went from the Mets to the Cubs as a free agent. But I thought when he left, he was like, I don't know. Listen, I could be way off, but I thought I remember something about he was mad. Listen, everyone's mad when you get traded the first time, but I thought there was something there. But listen, maybe not. Maybe not.
You may be right. Yeah, you may be right. But in terms of like the fan base and everything else, I think there's a mutual appreciation both ways.
And
we both could be wrong.
We'll have the staff behind the scenes look up if there indeed was any beef. I mean, AJ, you wouldn't be totally off the mark. It's no secret that Marcus Stroman is outspoken, and he is going to sometimes tell it like it is. And if he didn't like how a team treated him, you certainly won't hold back. So let's see. We'll find that out.
Well, I'll say this. Just checking about it. They traded him in 2019.
Okay.
After 2019, we didn't pitch in 2020 because of COVID. Okay, fine. And then this is on Jay's Journal. They're talking about how the Blue Jays won the deal. And Anthony Kay and Simeon Woods Richardson. I never heard of either one of them, so I think the Mets won the deal because
They said that they won the deal. Is that a recent article or is
no? This is August 10th, 2020 when he opted out. But it's funny that how it. Oh man, the Jays won because Stroman didn't pitch in 2020. Well, I think the Mets will. He did all right for them, and then now the Cubs obviously will take him. But it's just funny how it changes.
Also, they didn't have to pay him in 2020 because he didn't pitch, and you're right, those prospects have not panned out so far, so they should probably take that article down. You are correct, though. This from an article, multiple articles here, Yahoo, Bleacher, etc. He slammed the front office about 5 days after being traded and did not have the smoothest exit, publicly criticized the front office after being dealt, so...
That's what I thought. But
I retract.
But he did say, like, Toronto, I love you forever. He said a lot of the right things to the fans. But yes, I remember him leaving the front office. Now it's a different front office than it was back then. So
no, it's not.
I think that's what I remember more.
It's Ross Atkins.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was sorry. My bad. Then you're right. Yeah.
And Shapiro, I think it's the same two that have been there for a while now. So,
okay.
Well, then here's the follow-up before we get to the Yanks. Does it matter? Like, if you're a front office and Stroh was talking shit, does it matter? You're saying no, Kip. AJ is saying
I'm saying it might matter a little bit, but I think it doesn't matter if he's the one guy you think that can help your team kind of get over that hump in the playoffs. You go get him. You kind of eat your feelings the same way where if Stroman had a bad outing or a bad parting ways with that team, you kind of swallow your pride a little bit and know that they give you the best chance to win a ring this year, then he's going to go and pitch his heart out for him. It's still a business.
Yeah, he's going to pitch his heart out either way. He's a free agent at the end of the year. So he's going to pitch his ass off. The thing where it matters to me is if they do make a trade and the Blue Jays get him back, so they're going to have traded him away, got really nothing in return, and then they're going to trade. So basically, to get the same player, they're going to have traded prospects away to get Marcus Stroman back like 4 years later. That's what's going to be crazy is to see who they would have to give up to get him. And then they're going to say, well, we just could have kept Marcus Stroman for the last 4 years. Instead, they're going to get rid of him and have to give up players for him.
Well, good news. The front office is now more mad at AJ than at Stroman. They're talking smack about their last deal.
Hey, one thing I don't have to worry about is I'm not going to play in Toronto anytime soon, so they're not making a trade for me. But again, have you ever heard of the two guys they traded for?
No, you're
they never made it. So
that did not work out so far. As far as I know, Simeon Woods Richardson still working his way towards trying to be a big leaguer. But no, that trade has not worked out for the Toronto Blue Jays by any means. You're right. Accurate. All right, let's get to the Yankees. So I want to show these back to back. First off, they're closely monitoring the corner outfield market. I think that's pretty obvious. Mark Feinsand talking about names, though. Cody Bellinger seems like a natural fit. Another name that has come up per sources, Randall Grichuk of the Rockies, the team that just took 2 of 3 from the Yanks, an impending free agent making a little more than $3 million for the rest of the season, and then goes on later to say it has been well documented that the Yankees are seeking corner outfield help by the deadline, but according to sources, they're also seeking to upgrade catching, starting rotation, and back end of the bullpen in the next 2 weeks. Wow, Kip. The Yankees are going to have 0 minor leaguers left by August 2nd.
They're looking to have a completely different team going into the playoffs. That's what it sounds like. Upgrade every position. That's the nice part of playing in New York and being able to always be buyers instead of sellers, I guess.
Jeez.
Is Randall Grichuk an upgrade, though, over what they have? I love Randall Grichuk. Great guy. I played with him in St. Louis. But is he really an upgrade over if Judge comes back, Bader, Stanton? I mean, is he an upgrade? They always want left-handed hitters in New York, and that's been their biggest thing. They don't have any lefties. They've got Stanton, Judge, Torres, Donaldson is on the IL. They have Rizzo is a lefty, but the rest are all right-handed hitters. You want left-handed hitters in New York, especially in Yankee Stadium.
Bellinger makes more sense.
100%, but just to float names out there, then they're like, oh, we're going to go get a catcher. Who are they going to get? Wilson Contreras as a catcher?
Salvador Perez.
All right, what does Scott say? Hey, guys, I'm not cold in New York.
Hey, it would be a cool addition for them.
It's not a bad idea.
The name's been thrown out there, but he's got years left of team control. I think that's like the one dude that KC's hanging on to. We can ask Bobby Witt later. He'll give us no answer on that, but, it's worth a shot.
We could try. But Trevino won the Platinum Glove last year. He made the All-Star team. They're like, yep, you're shit canned. Higashioka has been like the career backup guy. You're going to get shit canned too. We need better. But who are they going to go get in the middle of the season? We've already talked about how hard it is for catchers to switch teams in the middle of the year, especially starting catchers. Who's out there that if you're a good team right now, your catcher's probably pretty good. So that's why it's like, wait, who are they going to go get? And what catcher, starting pitching, everyone's looking for that. Bullpen, everyone's looking for that. Outfielders, who's out there? We've kind of chronicled it, but who's out there? I mean, that's the hard part is there's so many teams that all need the same thing every year. Who's going to be the one that's going to break and give up some? Maybe go get Juan Soto. He might be on the market they're talking about now.
You could do a Cubs package for Bellinger and Yan Gomes or something. Not to say that you get a 2-for-1 there.
Yeah.
No, that's a good name, Yan Gomes. Yeah. Somewhat close to league average hitter, veteran, can learn the staff instantly, hard worker, well liked. I agree. That's a good name to throw out there.
Wait, are you talking about Jose Trevino or are you talking about Yan Gomes? Because it sounds like the same.
You are correct.
Veteran, hard worker, learn the staff, okay hitter.
In my mind, that should be the bottom of what we just talked about, okay? It's that outfield bat that we're discussing. To me, next is a reliever, then a starter, because you do have your 1 and 2 already, and then a catcher. So if for Yanks fans, it's a win if you get 1 or 2. Also, you just got to start hitting and get Judge back. Otherwise, they're going to be screwed regardless. I mean, they're in last place in the AL East right now.
By the way, Simeon Woods Richardson, by the way, has pitched in 2 games in the big leagues. Just FYI.
Good. It's 2 more than you knew.
Not for the Jays, though, for the Twins. That's why I never heard of him on the Jays. He pitches for the Twins now.
Was he in the Austin Martin deal, I want to say? I can't do instant homework for you. But
yeah. But he's pitched 2 games. He's 0-1 with a 6.52 ERA, 9 innings, 7 earnings, 2 homers. So there you go.
The Jays front office members texting me. We get it, AJ. We sucked on that deal. We get it. Okay, dude, we're going to try and get Stroman back.
No, I'm just trying to – I want to clarify for Woods Richardson. I'm not clear – and for me, to make me look stupid, not them. I mean, every team makes trades. Every team makes trades all the time, and Kip will tell you this. Everyone thinks, oh, this is the greatest trade ever. We won this trade. We got 7 prospects. And then you're like, oh, wait. Who? A lot of them don't make it to what people think they're going to be. I mean, there's some trades recently that have happened that, guys haven't become what they thought. And
agreed. Although if you look back, and we'll get to it later, at what the Twins and Reds exchanged last year, I mean, Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand, who we'll get to. Also the Juan Soto deal. I think James Wood's going to be a superstar, and there's a few other good players that were in that trade. Let's finish with Ohtani here for a minute. So it's funny seeing all of the insiders, not all, but many of the insiders throw things out there. Oh, I think they're talking to him now. And then I think Bob Nightingale yesterday was like, I will reiterate, Artie is not making that deal if they're good. And it was like when they were beating the Astros yesterday because they had won in that crazy game the day before, then they end up losing, and then more insiders are coming out like, okay, let's talk Ohtani trade again. It's a day-by-day situation right now. And I know actually, as far as our fans, a lot of Yankee fans have thrown out Ohtani. I think there are going to be more teams that have more to offer than the Yanks, AJ. Plus, I mean, this isn't going to hold anyone back, but they have Judge coming back from an injury. They have Stanton, who's a DH often, and then you're going to have Ohtani, who's only a DH. It's not the best fit right now until you kind of tinker around. If I'm the Yanks, I don't know if this is a World Series winning team right now.
No, it's not. That's why they're looking to trade up their whole team, Kip. That's why, and before we get into this whole, we're going to hit on Ohtani with Russ Dorsey later. Buster Olney last night on what are you asking Phil Nevin during the game? Did you guys see that? He literally said to Phil Nevin during the in-game interview, are you guys going to trade Ohtani? He asked the manager of the Angels during a game whether they are going to trade Ohtani or not. I get it's the question we need answered, but what's Phil Nevin going to say? We're trading him tomorrow to the Dodgers for 5 Phil Nevin's going to be like, no, we're not trading him. I don't know. That's not his job. But to ask him and put him on the spot like that, I just thought that was not a nice thing to do.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm with you. I mean, if I'm Phil Nevin in that case, I'm giving the most sarcastic answer, the most smart-ass answer to him. Like, yeah, actually, I've got Cashman on my phone right now in the cell phone I'm not allowed to use in the dugout, and we just swung a deal, okay? Let's get to our poll question, and then we'll keep going with this with Russ Dorsey, who's about to join us. So scan the QR code on the screen or hit up watchstadium.com/foul territory. Your question to start the day is, who will be the biggest buyers at the trade deadline? Blue Jays, Brewers, Orioles, Rays, Yankees, some of your options. And we'll swing back. We'll talk to Russ Dorsey about what's going on in Chicago with the Cubs and the White Sox and how much selling they'll be doing. And then we'll continue the Ohtani conversation next on Stadium.
Today is July 17th, and here's some memories from this day in baseball history. On this day in 1941, a historic streak was ended. Joe DiMaggio, the legendary Yankee Clipper, saw his unprecedented hitting streak of 56 games finally come to a halt. It was Al Smith and Jim Bagby of the Indians who stopped him before a crowd of 67,000 spectators in Cleveland. Yet, even this did not keep DiMaggio down. He started another hitting streak the very next day, which would last 17 games. His original record of 56 consecutive games with a hit still stands to this day. Moving on to July 17th, 1974. A major league milestone was reached by none other than Bob Gibson. This was the day Gibson became just the second pitcher in Major League history to record a jaw-dropping 3,000 strikeouts. He ended his career with an astounding 3,117 strikeouts, notched 251 victories, and maintained a 2.91 ERA. Gibson had a fantastic career and was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown in 1981. Fast forward to this day in 1987. Don Mattingly became the first American League player to hit at least one home run in 7 consecutive games. Mattingly wasn't finished. He extended the streak to 8 games, tying the all-time record. The record of 8 straight games with a long ball has since been matched but never surpassed. Lastly, we turn to July 17, 1990, for a truly unique event. The Minnesota Twins became the first team in Major League history to pull off not 1, but 2 triple plays in a single game. Despite this feat, they could not secure victory and lost the game to the Boston Red Sox, 1-0.
And now back to foul territory.
What's going on? Russ Dorsey from Stadium joining us with the pretty background. Russ, good to see you, man. Let's keep the Ohtani conversation going for a sec. So any updates, and do you also enjoy the entertainment of seeing all of the insiders kind of like throw random stuff out there game by game, being like, he's going to get traded. Wait, they're decent and they're only like 4 games back. Now he's not going to get traded. Okay, now he is. Where are you standing on what you're seeing right now? Because I think the game by game stuff's ridiculous, and I mean they're not making the playoffs.
I think so. First things first, the business of being an insider is really unique, right? Because you do have people telling you things very often, and things change by the day in baseball. And as we get closer to the deadline, in day to day, if a team wins, if a team loses, it's always going to change. Do I think the Angels were ever going to make the playoffs? No. I'd be lying to you if I told you I thought that they would. And it sucks because you have Mike Trout, who's been the best player of his generation, and Shohei Ohtani, who's doing things we've never seen done in the sport, and they haven't reached the postseason. And the analogy I like to use is Shohei is like a Ferrari. He's like having a Ferrari. He's one of one. But you know that in a couple of months, that Ferrari might get taken away from you. It might get repossessed. So do you trade in that Ferrari for a fleet of other cars that could be very serviceable to you, very nice cars, but it won't be your one-of-one Ferrari? And I think when you look at the Angels and where they are, if Shohei walks for nothing, it might be the biggest mistake we've ever seen. You can't let that guy walk out the door without getting anything in return.
Kip? Did we lose Kip?
Nope, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, you're here.
Put myself on mute for a second. My question for you then is, at what point, with only making the playoffs one time with Trout, I think they're not. I'm with you. They're not going to make it this year. What does Artie? Where's the line that he thinks? Okay, now it's time to trade. What does he need to see? How many games back of the playoffs this year, or where do you think the point will be that he reaches in and be like, okay, it's time to trade?
Kip, you've been in the business a long time, right? Sometimes it's like hours before the deadline, right?
Yeah.
The day before, where an ownership group, a front office will be like, you know what? it's just not working. And you probably are starting to lean one way or another as we get a week or two before the deadline. But at the same time, maybe somebody comes in with an offer in the final hour that blows you away. That happens all the time where a team is saying, we're probably going to end up keeping this guy. Another GM calls you back and is just like, hey, we'll throw in the guy that you want if we can make this deal happen right now. That's something to me that is always a possibility. I think for Artie Moreno, like, I think it is a pride thing at this point where it's just like, we got this guy. We got him to come play for the Los Angeles Angels, brought him over from Japan. He's turned into everything and more that we thought he would be when he came over here. To give him away, it feels like the biggest loss, right? And you had teams that called the Angels about him last year when they probably should have traded him with more time of club control, but they didn't. And then this year, you're like, oh, we got to, everybody's all in. We got to win. We got to win. We got to win. Trout, we got to win. How do we keep Ohtani? We got to win. And then the same thing happens at some point. It's very similar to what the White Sox have going in Chicago, where it's like you keep banging your head against the wall thinking that something is going to change, and it doesn't.
Yep.
Well, Russ, before we talk about how the White Sox are going to sign Ohtani in this offseason, since you brought up the White Sox, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But I was in New York all weekend talking to a bunch of people, and at the All-Star, we saw you at the All-Star game and having some conversations with people. And this question was brought up by me and other folks in the industry. Do you, when Ohtani becomes a free agent, whatever team signs him, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Seattle, Giants, whoever it is, do you have to get a clause in the contract that says you have to pitch and you have to hit? Because what's stopping Ohtani from signing a $600 million contract, $60 million a year for 10 years, and then he goes a year and goes, I don't want to pitch anymore, I'm just a DH, and then that contract goes right to shit? Is that possible?
It's really interesting. It doesn't seem like he would do that, but then again, you never know. I think the unknown is something that makes us so curious.
Let's say he blows his arm out again. Let's say he blows his arm out again. Let's say he hurts it, and God forbid
right.
he gets hurt. But let's say he
Right.
throws a ball in his shoulder and he tears his rotator cuff and he can't pitch anymore, right? Now, different than him saying I don't want to pitch anymore, but he does that. Then that value again of two players for one is gone. You're paying him $60 million a year to be a hitter and a pitcher, and that's gone. So that's kind of why I'm like, do you have to put an option clause in there or an escalator or incentive-based stuff? It's going to be weird to see how a team financially handles this.
Or like maybe that's where insurance comes in, right? Like we saw the Steven Strasburg deal where my guy Jesse Doherty from the Washington Post reported that they didn't get that contract insured. With everything we had known about Steven Strasburg's history with injuries, they didn't insure his deal after they won the World Series in 2019, and they're going to be on the hook for that whole thing. I think the same thing would likely have to be insured with Ohtani's next deal. And yeah, the premiums are going to be through the roof, but this is a player that we've never seen before. But my thought also on, like, if he blows out an elbow or a shoulder and he never plays again, wouldn't you then try to, for athletic as he is, for him being able to do as many things as we've seen him do, wouldn't you just try to play him in the outfield or put him at first base if that was option afforded to you?
But that's not a $60 million a year player. You're paying for two players, right? And one.
For sure.
That's the thing. And can you get insurance only on pitching? What happens if he's a DH and he hurts his elbow? Then do you, God forbid, then do you get insurance on the pitching because he didn't hurt his arm not pitching, or he slides into second and hurts his shoulder, right? That's why it's so fascinating, because there's so many ways you can twist and turn this and make it into a, man, what if he does this, or what if and there's always these what ifs. And again, I don't want to see him get hurt. I want to see him keep doing what he's doing. But if I'm the owner of a team, again, if I'm Jerry Reinsdorf and I go, Shohei, we're going to sign you for 10 years, $600 million. But oh wait, I need some assurances that you're going to pitch the whole time, and if you get hurt, how do we back it up? It's fascinating. It's just fascinating problem.
Can I jump in on that?
Please.
I think that's the risk you take. Signing any player, his injuries and all that stuff. For us, AJ, that's the beautiful part about guaranteed contracts coming from the player.
Yes, but the difference is, Kip, we never were gonna make as much and there wasn't the two-way aspect, right? There wasn't the hitting and the pitching what makes it. That's why it's so crazy.
Well, yeah, but okay, that's the risk you take. But then also the beautiful thing about Shohei is, let's say he has a shoulder strain and you don't get Shohei the pitcher anymore. Unlike any other player in the league, you still get value out of him because he can now still be the hitter for you. You still get half that player, half the guy you're signing for. Otherwise, if it's a pitcher with a shoulder strain, you don't get anything from him. With Shohei, you still get a powerful DH. I think that's where the contract.
That's a good call.
You get something, but you don't get what you're paying for. You see? But I'm saying, what if he doesn't get injured, and after a year he's just like, fuck it, I'm tired of pitching. It's hard. It's wearing me out, because he always says like pitching's harder than hitting. Man, I get blisters every time I pitch. Oh, my elbow's sore. Whatever it is, I don't want to pitch anymore. I just want to be a DH. And you're like, well, listen, dude, we paid you this amount of money to be both, and now you're just giving one up. There's no assurances, and I don't want to say he'll do that, but he could.
You're absolutely right.
That's what I was.
Case.
I was going to agree with Kip. It's like the calculated risk that you have to take. Like, we all know how amazing Shohei is, but you got to know, like with any deal, like the Angels giving Anthony Rendon what they gave him. Is that a risk? At the time, it looked like a pretty good bet. A guy who hadn't really been injured before, a guy who'd have been a really talented player and been on a World Series winning team. And then the guy comes to LA and he gets hurt very often, right? Mike Trout, you give Mike Trout over $400 million, the best player we've ever seen, first ballot Hall of Famer. If he stopped playing right now and he signs that deal and he hasn't played 149 games since 2016, it's part of the risk that goes into it. And so I think that teams that there's only going to be a certain amount of seats at the table. For me, like talking to people around the game, there's only going to be so many teams that really get that true meeting with Shohei. And so if you're one of those teams, you got to know that there is going to be some risk that goes into it, whether he blows out his arm, whether he stops hitting, whatever. But and I had a executive tell me this before the season started, you're signing a $300 million pitcher and also a $300 million hitter, which is why you get to the round number of $600 million. But with that, you just have to know, hey, if this thing doesn't work out, it'll just be one of those things like, man, that sucks.
Yeah, it's going to really suck, especially when the White Sox sign him, and then they're like, man, we signed this guy and he quit pitching, because that would happen to the White Sox. On to Chicago. Since you've already said now the White Sox are signing Ohtani. Thanks, Rich, for breaking.
Whoa, that is AJ Pierzynski, not Russ Dorsey. I don't want Rick Hahn mad at me.
No, I was misquoted. Taken out of context. Which team in Chicago is going to make bigger moves at the trade deadline? Is Bellinger, Stroman, those guys gone later possibly? Whoever else, Jan Gomes we mentioned in the show? Or is it Giolito, Lynn? Maybe, I don't know who all. Graveman possibly. I'm sure they'd love to get rid of some other guys, but which team is going to make the more impactful moves, not only for this year, but for the future?
My gut says, before, like both teams are basically in the same spot. The White Sox are 8.5 games back. The Cubs are 8 games back. And I have them written down of guys that I think could be on the move. So you got Giolito, Lance Lynn, Kendall Graveman, Kenyon Middleton. People like to throw TA's name in the mix. For me, if I'm looking at this situation logically with TA and the White Sox, it's like, all right, he has not had the typical Tim Anderson type of season. Wouldn't you rather have him stay in Chicago after the trade deadline, build up some of that stock again in the second half, and then if you wanted to move him, then you move him in the offseason? To trade him right now when the value is so low and he's on such a team-friendly deal, it wouldn't make sense. On the other side of town, you have a guy in Cody Bellinger that the Cubs front office took a gamble on, right? Cody had been a below-average big league player since he hurt his shoulder in the World Series, and they gave him $18 million to come play center field, to have no limitations, to say, hey, go be Cody Bellinger. And he's been able to do that and sustain that. And that, if you are the Cubs and say, all right, we're not going to be a better team than the Brewers or the Reds this season, do we move Cody? You probably do, if you can get an offer that you think fits where you are in your window, because the Cubs are still building, but they have a fan base that's also like, hey, we've heard that for a while now, right? And if you're going to be the big bad Cubs that have this money and all this infrastructure around Wrigley Field, and they're just putting up the sports book right next to the ballpark and Gallagher Way and all this stuff. You're seeing lots of money come into Wrigleyville, but you want to start seeing more of that being put back in the product on the field. Now, if Dansby, who was a big get for them this offseason, you bring in Jameson Taillon, you bring in Seiya Suzuki, you bring in Stroman, all right, those are great pieces for a team that clearly has shown it wants to be competitive, but you still at some point have to make that big move. So for this year, in 2023, I think the White Sox make more moves at the deadline, but I think the Cubs have to look at it in terms of 2024, which I believe would be their window to really start competing legitimately in that NL Central.
Russ, want to play along with the poll question here? Biggest buyers at the trade deadline, and feel free to elaborate, between Toronto, Milwaukee, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and the Yankees. Now, for me, I want to say Baltimore. I just don't have faith in them making a ton of moves. They'll do something, but I just, based on what they've done the last few years, and even just the last year when they've actually been good, it's hard for me to be like, wow, Baltimore is just going to steal the show at the trade deadline. So I actually voted for Toronto. What do you think?
All right. I definitely want to hear what you guys think after I go. So Toronto makes a lot of sense. I feel like I was a year early on the Blue Jays because I picked them to win the World Series last year. Obviously, they didn't get there. But I'm with you, Scott. I look at the Baltimore Orioles. They're one of the best stories in baseball to me this year because they're about to chase down the Tampa Bay Rays. And I don't think enough people are talking about that. The Rays were the hottest thing going in baseball for the better part of 3 months. And they hit an absolute cold stretch before the All-Star break. And the Baltimore Orioles were consistent. They were steady. And they are one game behind the Tampa Bay Rays for the top spot in the AL East. This is the time when you make your move. So you're thinking about starting pitching, right? Maybe a Lucas Giolito, maybe it's Lance Lynn. I know Dylan Cease's name has come up as a possible trade target. If I'm the White Sox, do I move Dylan Cease right now? Probably not. But if you're the Orioles, you got to set the bar high, right? Because you have an opportunity as a team who has the third best record in the big leagues right now to strike while the iron's hot. You're bringing up all these prospects. You have a catcher that can, manage a rotation and has shown leadership ability. You have a manager that guys believe in, and all these young guys coming up have all played together for a long time. This is the time, if you're the Baltimore Orioles, to go out with the prospect capital that you have and make a big move.
See, I'm kind of leaning the other way on that one. I'm kind of going towards Toronto and Tampa, just for the reason that I think Baltimore has started the process to be a really good team for a really long time. I don't want to give up what's still coming for them to sacrifice. I think maybe they're a year ahead right now. So I think Toronto and Tampa, who are set in their windows right now, those are the type of the teams that I want to see kind of go make that move. Because not only do you make the move to win now, you probably also take the guy those teams wanted, whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Baltimore. You kind of block them in the process too. I think Toronto and Tampa are more of a piece away in their winning window than the Baltimore, who are building something maybe over a few years right now.
I agree with you, Kim. I understand that, where you don't want to. You were bad for so long to get all these guys.
Don't ruin it.
Yes, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I'm with you.
AJ?
I'm going. Listen, I'm sick of Baltimore. I'm sick of Baltimore saying they're a year away. No, I'm serious. Because last year, we're ahead of schedule. Now this year, we're ahead of schedule. Screw that. Go for it. Go get somebody. Go get some dudes. If you have a farm system as deep as everyone says the Orioles is, go out and get some dudes. If you're Tampa Bay, you make the playoffs every year. And guess what? Nobody cares and nobody comes to the games. Why? You got to make the final step. Win the World Series. Go out and get dudes. Toronto, I want all these teams to go out and get guys. Let's go. Make it crazy. Toronto, you haven't won in 30 years. Guess what? Go out and get dudes, right? Go out and make again, prospects are only prospects until they become a player. Otherwise, they're all suspects as far as I'm concerned. Jeff Francoeur told me this in 2013, 12, 13, when he was on the Royals. He said, I'm so sick of the Royals having all these prospects. At some point, we got to turn these prospects into players. They did it a couple years later, went on and won the World Series in 2015. At some point, you got to make that step. Now, who's the GM that's going to be ballsy enough to say, I'm going to make that move? Will it be Toronto? Will it be Baltimore? Again, Baltimore hasn't won it forever. Dude, 40 years since they won a World Series, right? They got to go do it. And to me, that's the thing. Who's going to be the GM to do it? But I hope all these teams do it because I want teams to try to win. If I'm a fan and I'm sitting there and I'm a player on their team and I'm on the Rays and we go out and trade for, I don't know, whoever we trade for, it gives you hope. It gives you belief, right? So screw the teams that sit back. Like last year, the Orioles didn't do much and they were right there. Fuck that. Let's go, boys. Let's go get it. Because who knows what happens next year. Next year is next year. But let's year we're in it and we're going to chase the Rays down. Let's go take the next step.
And unlike last year where you talk about Baltimore, they were in a different position, right? You trade Trey Mancini, who's going to be on the show a little bit later, and that made sense, right? You allowed Trey to go win a World Series with the Houston Astros in a year where they're realistic. They were like, all right, we're probably not going to be a true contender. But this year, with the circumstances that you have now, where you've shown that not only are you one of the best teams in the AL East, you're one of the best teams in all of baseball. Yes, you have teams around the big leagues that aren't playing like we thought they would and might be sellers, and there might be guys on the market that you didn't think would be available to you that you could make a deal for. Yeah, and you have a fan base that says, we lost 100 games for how long? Please do something where we can be excited about this team.
Hey, Russ, before we let you go, before we jump, who's better than the Baltimore Orioles in the American League right now?
Based off of how they're playing, I say they're probably the best team in the American League.
Then let's fucking go, boys. Let's go get somebody and
No
let's
argument.
make a run.
Fair.
People ask me all the time, who's the best team you've seen? Atlanta, I haven't seen Baltimore, but I watch them on TV. They're exciting. They have young players. They got a great bullpen. Let's go. Get what you need, and let's take a run. And if I'm an Orioles fan, I am putting pressure on the Angelos family. Let's go. Let's make a run this year.
Let's clip that off, okay? And we'll show it to Trey Mancini. So he can send it to his old fam and be like, hey guys, you need to send this to the front office so they can be aggressive and make moves. That is a motivating speech from AJ.
Let's also not remember, Baltimore's on national TV this week for the first time in like forever. So the public are taking notice of Adley Rutschman and Bautista and Cano and Gunnar Henderson and Cedric Mullins and all these dudes. So it's not just us. The public are paying attention.
No, you're right. Russ, great catching up with you. We'll grab you again later this week, hopefully to report on one of the Orioles trades.
Sounds good. Yo, before I go, Kip, I wanted to tell you, my mom was watching when we were in Seattle, and she wanted to tell me that she loves your necklace.
Thanks, Mama. Thanks, Mama. Dorsey.
It is
I
shiny.
appreciate that.
It is
Thank
real.
you, Mama.
It is gorgeous. And you'll get a lot more of that. Still another hour and 20 minutes to go
See ya.
on Foul Territory. Good stuff, Russ. I love that. Chain gang today. It's 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
AJ, you're left out.
AJ's
You're
not
back.
a chain guy.
You can see where the Padres are. They're trailing 2 teams. We'll get to the Mets in due time. Might not be this week, but there's plenty to say about them. Opening day playoff odds. Padres, 85.3%. Current playoff odds, 25.7%. 1-4, essentially. So what do you do if you're the Padres? I don't know that you buy. You've already bought and bought and bought for the last couple of years. In free agency, in the trade market, you name it. So is it time to sell? Well, this is a team with an interesting group of potential free agents, to say the least. Josh Hader, be the best closer on the market. Blake Snell might be the best starter. You also have Seth Lugo that you could trade to, another potential free agent. And another guy who is not a potential free agent, but certainly an interesting trade piece, and that would be Juan Soto. He is free after next year, after 2024. And if you trade Snell and you trade Hader, again, we're playing this out for the Padres. You trade Lugo, then why not Soto? Padres fans might say, well, we want to sign Soto. Well, good luck with that. He's a Scott Boras client, and Juan Soto, if you've watched him play left field this year, if you've looked at his defensive ratings, defensive runs saved, outs above average, whatever you want to look at, not good. he's trending toward becoming a DH. So if you're the Padres, maybe you spin the wheel again here, as A.J. Preller did in 2015, 2016. He's torn it down before. You can tear it down again.
All right, so first poll results on who the biggest seller or buyer, I should say, because then we got seller, is going to be at the deadline as we're back on Stadium. Pierzynski, Kipnis, Braun.
Braun,
Toronto.
Scott, by the way, blink twice if you're okay in your closet. Like we asked Jessica Kleinschmidt, are you okay? You look like you're in a hostage
I'm in an
situation.
office.
I know, but
it's pretty well lit.
Oh, it just looks like you're,
This is not as bad as like when Kratz was in a room that was just a white wall.
True.
I mean, I've got a few things on the board behind me. The class schedule for Iona. Okay. I memorized it already. I know when all of my courses are. I see all the students right outside the window there. So I'll keep blinking for you. I'm good. I'm alive. I am safe for now. Unless things keep coming down from the wall behind me. Anyway, buyers, Toronto, then Baltimore, then the Yanks, then the Rays, then Milwaukee, and last. And I could see that where fans are like, Milwaukee last year could have bought and they sold their freaking closer. So we'll get to that. Let's do who will be the biggest sellers as our next poll question. Your options are Cardinals, Cubs, Mets, Padres, White Sox. So
that's a given.
I know, but you have to pick the biggest seller. Like who's going to sell the biggest names at the deadline? Think about it. We'll get to it later. QR code on the screen. Otherwise, watchstadium.com/foul territory. It is now time to pop off. Thanks to Candy Pop. AJ, you're going to have to lead off for us. How was that Mets game on Saturday?
If you haven't seen the clip, Joe Davis and I called the game on Saturday, and there was a pop-up, speaking of popping off, and Brett Beatty completely zooed it, and then it bounced up and hit him in the face, and it allowed a run to score. Max Muncy, FT guy, got an RBI out of it. The thing is Joe Davis summed it up perfectly when he said the 2023 Mets season in one clip. And it was just one of those things that the two games in New York, Friday and Saturday, they were just awful. They couldn't score. They couldn't hit. They got 4 hits in 2 games from the Dodgers. Now, granted, they faced Arias, and the second game, they got Gonsolin, who both are good pitchers, but they got 4 hits, 1 run, and just looked outclassed. Now, they won yesterday to make up for it, but, man, Mets, what are you doing? You have too many good players. You have Verlander, Scherzer, Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, all these guys that are names. What is happening in New York? And Steve Cohen, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep these guys and try to do it again, or are you going to make some moves? And it's just a tough spot to be in. We talked about it in the game Saturday night, boys. If you bring them back, the same group of guys, are you in that middle ground where you have a high payroll but you can't compete, or do you try to flip them all and start over? It sucks. It would suck to have $20 billion and be Steve Cohen and have to make these decisions.
Kip, did you ever drop a pop-up like that?
Probably. I mean, yeah, probably. It reminds you of that the Luis Castillo one from like 15 years ago, but not nearly as bad. It wasn't a walk-off. They were already losing the game. It's a tough position. First off, I don't think it would suck too much to be Steve Cohen with $20 billion. I think he's going to be all right on that one. It's, to me, the question is not if you're going to be sellers. It's just how much of a seller are you going to be? Do you chalk this up to a bad year and try again with a lot of these good guys next year? If you sell one, do you sell all? If you get rid of a Scherzer, does Verlander next to go? You got to keep something for next year to compete with. So I just don't know how much they're looking to get rid of, and I don't know how many teams are willing to take on some of these big guys if they're not performing as well as they should be.
Okay, so a few questions here. Number one, AJ, you're Steve Cohen now. I'm giving you $20 billion. What are you doing? What are you doing with this team right now?
I'm buying a big boat and I'm going out and I'm not watching the games and I'm not worried about it.
Are you doing that with the same general manager?
I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Stearns, right, is the one everyone keeps waiting for. When are the Mets going to?
They don't have him yet. You're saying you're going to bring someone else in?
But do you want? Who is it? Epler, right? Epler's the GM now.
Yes.
Do you want him making the trades, or do you want to wait till the offseason and have Stearns, who you're allegedly not bringing in, but everyone knows you are trying to get? make the moves. But here's the question for you guys, and we asked this again on Saturday night. Who do they get rid of? Who can they move? Can you move Lindor? Can you move Verlander, Scherzer? Can you move Alonso? Can you move Nimmo, McNeil? Who can you move and get? Yes, Canna, sure. Tommy Pham's having a great year, sure. David Robertson, absolutely. You're not going to get huge stars back for those in big hauls. But the other guys, who can you move and who wants them is the other problem, because these guys are locked into long-term, expensive contracts. So what actually assets do you really have?
I think Pham and Robertson are my first two I would go to. I think those guys can help teams. I look at the Nimmo McNeils first, because I think Lindor and Alonso are cornerstone pieces, or in the sense where those are guys you build around. I think the other ones, great ball players, and that's why I think you can get the most back for them. But I just don't know. I don't see them trading their big face of the franchise guys.
You guys are wild. Brandon Nimmo just signed like a 7-year deal. He's
my
not
point.
getting dealt. Lindor
actually,
is on a massive deal. Years-wise,
I
these
said no
teams
to
don't make – right. You said Nimmo, and who was the other one you said that was a longer-term guy?
McNeil.
These guys have years and years left. I mean, I think both sides, it's going to be very difficult to pull off trades like that. When you're doing trades mid-season, they're usually deals for players that have no more than like 3 years of control left.
Pham seems like a no-brainer to me.
Oh.
I think he's playing
100%.
so well, and that team will see. He's a 1-year deal, right, with them?
Mm-hmm.
Pham, yes. Pham is a free agent after this year. Mark Canna, free agent after this
Robertson.
year. David Robertson, free agent after this year.
Those three are gone. Those two, you might as well just go ahead, chip them off.
Mm-hmm. Where it gets interesting to me is after that. I mean, also you could make a case for like Brooks Raley, maybe Carrasco. I don't know. But then the real story here is Verlander and Max, because they're still on short enough deals. It's just that they're not pitching amazingly, and they are so expensive. To me, Verlander, no chance.
But they have no
and
trades.
They have no trade clauses. For me, though, I think Max would say yes. If he gets on a roll the next few starts, don't you think he wants to pitch for a winner? This dude wants to win as much as anyone. Not saying Verlander doesn't, but Max is only this year and next year. Verlander, I think, is one more after that, right?
I thought he signed a 2-year deal.
Is he 2 years also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I don't know. I could see it. I could see Max saying, okay, let's do it.
Word on the street in New York amongst the writers, and this is the writers only.
Yes.
Max would say yes. Verlander really likes it in New York. Don't think he would say yes. Now, this is not based on anything other than talking to writers in New York while I was there this weekend. That
Verlander just got there. Okay, that's
but
cool.
he really likes it there. He really likes it. His wife's happy there. He's happy there. Max would be more inclined, let's say, to waive his no trade and go somewhere else.
Easy.
Not that he doesn't.
Let Showalter go. I don't think during the season. I think they're going to do an off season of Stearns is in, picks his own manager, and they press the reset button. They start.
Does Craig Counsell follow him? That was also a name that was talked about.
I like that. Okay, let's swing back. We'll give you our picks for tonight, and then keep an eye on what we've got in hour number 2. But first off, visit cookiepopcandypop.com. Enter code FOULBALL for 20% off, and always pop off with us. Bobby Witt and Trey Mancini coming up too in hour number 2.
Some images from yesterday's action in Major League Baseball.
And now back to Foul Territory.
All right, so let's flip up some results for the second poll. Biggest sellers at the deadline. Right now, it looks like the Cardinals and the Padres are leading the pack in this poll. I went with the White Sox just because I think they're guaranteed sellers, and they have some really big names that could be moved and quite a few names. So that's my vote. I don't think the Padres are selling, and if they are, they're not selling much. Sure, Cardinals will make moves in my mind, AJ, but unless they do like a Goldschmidt-Arenado situation, to me, you're looking at what we're talking about with the Mets. It's like, who's a free agent? Jordan Hicks, Jack Flaherty, some outfielders, but not like these massive names that are moving.
Well, here's my thing: the Cubs are going to move the biggest names: Stroman, Bellinger, and whoever else they decide to. Jan Gomes, Leiter. Those are probably the names that everyone has been talking about, right? And they're all on the Cubs. The White Sox now, if they go Dylan Cease, if they go Eloy Jimenez, if they go, someone like that over, Lance Lynn. And, it's almost guaranteed now at this point. Giolito's gone. Graveman's good, but he's not a huge name. Middleton's good, not a huge name. But then you look at the Cardinals. If they move Arenado, which, how good were, no offense to Max Muncy, but Arenado in a Dodger uniform?
Huh.
You got Freeman, Betts, Arenado, Muncy, DH, Will Smith, JD Martinez, 1 through 6. That's pretty hard to beat. So if they make a move like that, and then with the Padres, do they trade Soto? Do they trade a Hader? Guys they just acquired. Then but right now, if the way teams are constructed, it's the Cubs that'll make the biggest moves.
Yeah, because they're guaranteed. Okay, I'm with you. Let's look back at locks, your BetMGM locks for Monday. First, we rewind. We were hot for a while, cold on Friday. I tried to get some vibes going with Sean Casey joining the Yanks, but they still can't hit. They lost 2 of 3 to the Rocks. Kopech had no strikeouts in that SGP that Kratzy was going for. And Todd Father was the smart one. He always picks games that have rain situations. And he was really going for it there. He needed run lines, 3 or more for 2 teams, but he got saved by some weather. Money bags, please. Still in great shape across the board. Everybody up a healthy number. Let's stay hot. Your BetMGM locks for Monday. Kip, you're 5-2. Why don't you go first?
I think I went with the Dodgers money line for $300. I think they're facing a pitcher who's given up 8 earned in 2 of his last 3 starts, I want to say. He was sent down to the minors, and I think he's coming back up for his first start since. I don't think you want to see the Dodgers line up your first start since being sent down.
No. Now, it is Grayson Rodriguez, so I'm going to say he's one of the better pitching prospects, but you're right. We don't know what he's going to look like. It was not good for him first time around.
No.
Stuff-wise, he's one of the best, but that's not – in my mind, Kip, the thing was, I'm like, you're going to call him up for the Dodgers? I would have given him a little softer landing for him.
So it could be a low-scoring game even, but I think the Dodgers offense is just too good to let him off the hook.
So you've got money lines. So you're putting it's minus 105, 315 for 300.
You got it.
Is that what you got? Okay, cool. AJ, you going to the same game?
I'm going same game, but I'm going over 9.5 because of the Dodgers offense, because Grayson Rodriguez is pitching, but also because Sheehan is pitching for the Dodgers, and he's basically a one-pitch guy. And Kip, you know where they're playing. Do you ever play in Camden Yards in like July when it's 147 degrees?
It feels like ball feels like you open the oven when you're cooking something.
Yeah.
It's just right there when you walk out.
And, I mean, the ball just goes out of there, right? And both offenses are swinging it right now. The Dodgers didn't score any runs against Scherzer yesterday. I know they got in late, but it's not that far. They're going to be a little pissed off. So I just see this. I see this like a 7-4, 8-5, some kind of game like that. And I just think it's over. It should be an easy over.
And it looks like people are playing it that way too, because I know you placed it in at minus 105, so you're good. But now it's jumped up to minus 110, AJ. So
those sons of bitches.
Agreeing with you.
Those sons of bitches.
It's fine. It's fine. You locked it in. That's good. You should like that.
Who you got, Scotty?
I'm going to the San Francisco-Cincinnati game, and I'm going to buy an extra run so that I can get to 10.5 runs. I'm going to go under that mark. Cincinnati's offense disappeared. The Giants are playing really good ball, but it's mostly based on run prevention. Their offense has not been great over the past month. Cincinnati's pitching has been underrated, especially their bullpen. So I know Brandon Williamson's not the world's best starter, but even though it's in Cincinnati, I could see it going under 10.5. And then in order to get to that number, were to play it at -120, I got Logan Webb's Ks at just 4 plus. So I need 4 plus Ks from him, and Webb's been awesome. He has been on a run. He's a stud. He had a complete game shutout against the Rocks last time around. He's not the biggest strikeout guy in his career, but much better this season. So
yeah, but the Reds strike out so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about even going to 5, and I'm like, I'm just going to play it safe. I want to get a dub back on the board. Let's keep this thing low scoring, and I'm good. I wanted to originally just go 9.5 and take the under, but ultimately got the Web case so that I could get an extra run out of it. So boom, there you go. There's our locks for Monday. AJ's not as confused anymore, even though he looks confused in that picture. He's doing pretty well. Just saying. Play BetMGM, swing for the fences. Here's how to get it in 3 easy steps. Log into BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game up until September 7th, 2023. That's this year. Be a batter, pick an area of the zone, and depending on the area you pick, it's single, double, triple, or homer, or pop out, and you receive the prize associated with that type of hit. You can play once a day. Prizing must be used on MLB and expires in 24 hours. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm going to give you my home run pick real quick. Mookie Betts, plus 333. He's been on a heater. He's got like almost a 500 batting average in his past 14, and I'm hitting on that game, whether he does it against Grayson Rodriguez or someone else. Just throw your names out there. Who you got?
Yoshida.
Santander.
Ooh,
okay.
Like you're all in on this Baltimore weather and getting the ball.
Hell yeah.
I like it.
Hey, see you tomorrow on Stadium. We've got Trey Mancini and Bobby Witt, hour number 2 on FT's YouTube channel.